What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 106 of Nintendo Noise, Flip Screen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. We're here today to talk about none other than Super Mario Wonder. And I am oh so excited to be joined by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Steven Radford.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Steve. How you feeling? Because I got to tell you, after 15 minutes of Mario Wonder, I'm feeling pretty good.
It's exciting. It's really cool. I was like, it just keeps going and going and going. And before we get into Super Mario Wonder, though, I know some people expected Chris from Switch Weekly to be on this week's Nintendo Noise. He was on Flip Screen Games podcast instead. We had some like scheduling conflict where he spoke all about his Gamescom stuff, and there was like a bunch of Nintendo specific questions that we bombarded him with at
In
the
the
back
back
half
half,
of the show.
yeah.
So if you're interested in Nintendo stuff, there is some Nintendo stuff over there about Gamescom and Nintendo's presence at Gamescom and things like that. So it's well worth a listen.
And you can hear about all the indie games that Chris saw that were his favorites, a couple of which sound really cool. So definitely go check that out if you're interested in Gamescom and a little extra Nintendo noise over on the Flip Screen Games podcast this week.
Yeah, but otherwise, I'm super excited about Super Mario Wonder and looking at my bank account and trying to justify spending hundreds of pounds on another Nintendo Switch so late in the life cycle.
So here's the thing, Steve. I may have just gotten more GameStop gift cards, and I was like, this is going to be my gaming budget for the rest of the year. And I was like, I could sell my OLED Switch and get this Mario one. I don't think I'm going to, but...
Like, where do you get all these gift cards from? Do you just, like, have an in at GameStop? Someone's just, like, just printing them out and sending them to you?
Here's what I'm going to tell you, buddy, is with the power of a good credit card offer, you too can get a lot of stuff for free. Yeah, truly, to demystify it for you, if you're genuinely interested, you find a good credit card that has a good points system, and then also has a good rewards program.
Mm-hmm.
And look for one that's doing a balance or not a balance, like a promotional thing to spend a certain amount of balance by a certain time, and like just time that up with big purchases. So like I went on vacation last year. I went and got a new credit card to book my vacation, immediately paid it off. So I didn't run up any debt or anything on the card. I just knew I was going to have to put this big amount down. And I got like 50,000 points or whatever, 100, however many 100,000 points in their system. And I was able to get like $500 in GameStop gift cards and then another couple hundred in Amazon gift cards just from using the card once. I barely even used the thing since. So take advantage of these hacks, folks. You too can get video games for free if you try hard.
But this is not financial advice. We are not registered or qualified to give any financial advice. Take this with a grain of salt. I will say that before we get sued to oblivion.
Don't listen to me. Who am I? But anyway, that's how you too can get some GameStop gift cards if you
this sponsored segment by Capital One.
That'd be great. You want to hit us up, Capital One. Me and Samuel L. Jackson can be your spokespeople. Anyway, let's talk about Mario because that is going to be one of the games I buy with my GameStop gift cards. There's our segue back to the topic at hand.
Yeah, Super Mario Capital Wonder. Let's do it.
There you go. What's in your wallet? So if you've if this is your first time checking in on the game, if you've forgotten, if you've lost the thread, of course, Super Mario Wonder, the latest 2D Mario game, the first new styled 2D Mario game since New Super Mario Bros. Way back in 2000.
Well, I guess 3D World was sort of a 2D-ish, like.
I think that's its own thing, like it's level complete, but it's its own kind of side thing, right? In the same way that like I wouldn't call Super Mario Brothers or Bowser's Fury, right? I wouldn't call that a 3D Mario game in the same way that Odyssey is, even though it is.
What about Mario Maker? Like that's 2D.
That's a 2D Mario game.
Mario Run, like
that's not. That's an infinite runner.
Okay.
So you can see why this is such a big deal, right? All of these different things. But this is a new direction, right? Like this is a new art style. obviously new voice actors, which we'll talk about in
Which
a little
I
bit.
do want to talk about the voice actors
Hey, you want to
because
pick on that now? Go for it.
yeah, because I was watching this with my partner and I was like, "Can you? How does Mario sound to you?" Because they don't know. They were just like, "Sounds like Mario. Like, what's the
Yeah,
difference?" And we discussed last week. Are they just going to be aping what Charles was doing? Seems that that's the case. Like, it
yeah.
sounds just like Mario. Doesn't seem any different.
There's
The only
one there's one word that sounds different to me, and it's when he goes, "Wonderful." And it's like, because we've never heard him say that before, and you're like,
yeah.
"Oh, like, that does feel a little different," but it doesn't not sound like Mario. So,
And I think if you didn't know it wasn't Charles, like if no one had told you, you'd go into it thinking I think you'd be just
yeah,
like, "Oh, it's the same dude that's
I
done
think
it
I think
for the
so.
last 30 years."
I think maybe, I mean, think about it. When we saw the initial trailer, it wasn't him, and we didn't think
Mm.
about it. So, we got confirmation that that's the same audio, right? So, like, we talked about that last week where it's like, "Oh, could that be archival?" Like, like,
No,
what's this?
it, yeah. And
That's
no
him.
one noticed. No one clocked it.
No. So, whoever's the new person, doing a great job.
Or new persons, because they did say it was potentially multiple. So I will be curious to
I
see
meant
who it
just for
is.
Mario in that sense, because I'm imagining Luigi's a different actor, but
Yeah, probably. I have no idea. I also
I
wanna
will
talk about
say,
the talking flowers and, like, the fact that there's full voice acting. Is that the first time in a 2D Mario game?
yeah, right? Definitely.
Which was so weird. Those
I guess in
talking things.
the, well, full voice acting, yes, right? There are 2D Mario games that have some voice acting, but not like
But
that.
not talking sentences and telling you all sorts of weird little things as you go along, like, "I wonder what Goombas taste like," which very much reminded me, like, of a question we would have answered back in the day on One More Thing, like, "What do Goombas taste like?" Remember when we
What does
spoke
Vin
about what
Diesel
Vin
smell
Diesel
like?
smelled like? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
What do you think Goombas taste like?
mushrooms.
Yeah, I think they taste like
Yeah.
mushrooms too,
I
yeah.
would say they probably taste like a portobello. I've always thought they
Oh,
were
no,
like a
I was thinking
portobello.
like a chestnut mushroom,
Okay, yeah,
like a quite a nutty flavor mushroom.
sure. I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. I've always thought they looked like portobellos, you know,
They kinda do, yeah. You
because
just
they're
wanna
like,
chop the bottom off, stuff it with some
yeah,
cheese,
and like
have a
they're
good
so,
time.
they have that real like earthy brown color to
Mhm.
them. It's like, like almost like dirt.
Yeah. Ugh,
Yeah.
weird thought. But yeah.
I do dig that the flowers are like a mix of that, like, some of the things are like, it's like giving you like clues, like there was one example they showed where there was like a pipe in the, like in the background. It's like, oh, I wonder if you can get over there. So it's like a very like, it's not a specific clue, it's very like vague. And then some things are like very like, oh, like it's a tutorial, like you can do this way or whatever. But then sometimes it's just jokes, and like that's cool. Like I like that. It does give a little bit of like personality to things.
Yeah, it reminded me of the kind of thing I would expect from something like Undertale, where there would just be, like, these weird talking characters just talking to me as I go about the world.
Yeah.
I really liked the concept, I thought it was cool.
There's like
But
the
even from the
zaniness to it, and I'm like, I'm into that.
which the whole game has, like,
Yeah.
Wonder mode is like tripping on acid mode, or maybe mushrooms if they've been eating too many Goombas.
But yeah, I don't know, dude. Like, there's so much to talk about here. I want to pull in a comment. This one comes from one of our Patreon producers, Wakahula, who said, "This game is full of features. What the WTF?" I'll say, local co-op, online play versus races. This is like a Mario Bros. Fever dream, and that's like kind of how I feel walking away from this. Of just like, man, like I'm like low key overwhelmed by how much they had to show.
Oh, 100%. Like I was like, oh, we got new enemies, and then it's like, here's all the new power-ups, and they seem to keep going. Then you had all the stuff in Wonder mode where it changes perspective, and you're like walking on the back of the level instead of along the side, and then things like go trippy, and like the pipes are moving, and like all sorts of cool stuff happening. And then you get to the badges, which I think was the most interesting thing for me because it's a
It's
real
very
change of
different.
pace for a
Yeah,
Mario game. Like we've
it's a
we've
major
had
change.
power-ups before, we know that, and like the wonder thing seems like a gimmick. And, we'll talk I wanna talk a bit about the power-ups and some of the stuff that we saw, like, we obviously have seen the elephant now in action, and we know we got a tease of it at the end of the last one, but
Yeah.
the power-ups remind me a lot of, like, I don't know, like, I saw, I think it was Wakahula in the Discord talking about ukulele and how they're like, something from ukulele, but I don't know, for me, it's, like, quite it adds a sense of replayability. You can get to areas and collect things that you would have never been able to collect without the power up, seemingly, like the high jump and the drill and the grappling vines and things like that. They enable you to get to areas you would never be able to get to previously.
I think the thing that stood out to me too is like, um, these powers coupled with some of the wonder abilities, like, really change the way that you traverse the environment, and I think that's really interesting because, I think in the past, some of the kind of stuff like that that they've added has felt more akin to, like, what they did with, like, the Yoshi and, Nabbit playable characters where, like, they're basically, like, kid-friendly characters where, like, they don't take damage in the overworld. They can still die if they, like, fall to their death, but, like, they're definitely new player friendly, and I feel like a lot of those kinds of things end up feeling like, "Oh, this is a handicap for lower skill players or younger players or whatever," rather than this is something that fundamentally changes the way you interact with the game or the world, and I like that about the power-ups or not the power-ups, the badges, because they don't feel like a thing that I'll be like, "Oh, I won't use these because they make the game too easy." It's like, "No, no, no, it's not really about that." It's more like allowing you to interact with the space differently in the same way that, like, there was that one wonder power where it's like, oh, it changes the perspective. So then rather than
Yeah,
going
which I
left to
thought was
right,
so cool.
you're running like top down. Like it's so weird, but it's like that is cool and inventive and unique. And like that's the shit I've been wanting out of a new 2D Mario, right? It's like new art style and things that feel fresh and innovative and like that they're breathing new life into the formula rather than just kind of like playing the hits. And this feels like that to me.
Yeah, it definitely does, like, and the fact that some of them are seemingly gonna make the levels more difficult. Like, I can't imagine playing a level and not being able to see my character and knowing where they are at any given
Yeah,
time, and I've
right?
just gotta know that they're
I love that
invisible,
though. That's
and
a
they
cool
only become
challenge.
visible when I get a coin, and there are those challenges as well, like, you get badge challenges, there's, like, these specific levels where you have to use a certain badge, like the high jump challenge, that they showed in the direct. And I think that then unlocks the badge that, and you can then use that in other levels, and that's how you come across those badges. You have to acquire them throughout the game, which encourages you to go back to the previous levels. And they said that you can, I think you can favorite levels in the menus, and you can kind of go back and easily find them if you want to in the overworld. Like you can play them in any order as well, which is brand new for the game.
Yeah, so like they talked about how basically the overworld is a little bit different where like you can go like level to level like you would in any, standard overworld having Mario game. But then there are also like there's kind of an open area thing where you can like if there's like a level you're having trouble with, you can skip it and go to the next one and come back to it. Or you can kind of like go around and like do them in whatever order you want, like Steve said. But then there's also like a direct courses menu so that once you've beat a level or once you've visited a level for the first time, like even if you failed it and moved on, you can like quickly go to the level selector and jump back to it and not have to like run through the overworld and find what level. So it's like you have all the benefit of that as a feature, but none of the like, oh, okay, like now this is adding a ton of time of me just kind of wandering
Yeah, I just wanna
aimlessly
quickly
around.
find the level, yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you might forget where it is as well, or you've gotta wander all the way back to the beginning of the area you're in, which
Well,
could just be a massive pain.
and also, like, there are 6 worlds, right? So, like, if there is a thing where you're, like, maybe you're frustrated on a world that like, there's one level that you can't beat and you wanna go back to an earlier one and, like, get a power up or, like, just, like, beat a level for a slump buster and come back to it or something like that. You have that ability to kinda
Mhm.
do that seamlessly, and I think that that's definitely, um, that's important. They showed off 3 different areas. There's 3 mystery areas we don't know about yet, but we saw Pipe Rock Plateau, Fluff Puff Peaks, and Shining Falls. I really like the amount of variety in the environments. Like they all felt really different, and um, like some of them feel more vertical, and just like there's a lot of variance just from what we've seen here already. And one of the things that definitely stood out to me was like we were talking about how some of the new abilities and the badges and stuff like allow you to interact with the world in different ways. They showed off the one ability, the drill hat, that like allows you to jump up into the ceiling and like move through the level that way. And it's so cool to see like again, like the difference and how much variety there is in just the 3 level like worlds that we've seen rather. But also like the idea that it's like a almost like Castlevania approach to level design where it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, yeah, like, you can play the level upside down, you can do it this way, you can do it that way." It's like, that's really cool, like, that shows a lot of thought being put into how all these systems interact rather than just like, oh, they're just shoving features in it, right? Like it's, like Wakalula said, there's so much going on here, but like you can see how it all plays together. It doesn't feel like overwhelming in a bad way. It's like, oh man, this is stuffed with content. Like they really swung for the fences here. Like it feels
And
ambitious, not bloated.
yeah, 100%. And I really like how there's so much stuff here for veteran Mario fans. Though, because I kind of feel like we've known that we know the formula by now, and it could have become stale. But even some of the new enemies, like we've got a melon piranha plant for the first time. We've got those hoppy cats, which basically are copycats where when you jump,
I
they
love
jump.
that one. The
I
uh
thought
the
that one was so cool. The
I,
mumsies as well were really cool, which
yeah.
you pull away and you have to, that's like how you kind of defeat the enemies, pull away their like bandages like they're a mummy.
And then there was the oh, I can't remember the name of them, but the one that has, like, the, like, thing hanging down and you can use it to platform by, like, swinging across it like it's like a Donkey Kong vine.
And there's the I think they're called conks, the ones that even when you're like floating in goo, they'll come down and they'll like suck up
Oh,
all
and
the
they'll
goo and
crush
then
the
you
goo.
and crush you, yeah. So that you could potentially use that in with the levels, I would imagine, to be able to clear out the goo and then get to areas that you wouldn't be able to previously. And I like how all of this seems to really gel together. That you've got the new enemies, the badges, the wonder abilities, these like really, really creative level designs that all of that goes together to make a really, really great platformer and puzzle.
Real
And
quick,
I think there's going to be a lot of puzzles.
I do wanna call out, I made a mistake. There are 7 areas, not 6.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. But, yeah, yeah, I'm right there with you. I think, like, the idea of a new Mario game was already exciting to me, but, like, it really feels like the vision here is just so strong. Because like, the thing you said about, like, the new enemies, I think definitely speaks to me because something I noticed as we were going through it was, like, I think it's really cool how some of the enemies are like actual brand new enemy types, and then some of them, and like obviously a bunch of our old favorites are back, right? There's going to be Goombas, there's going to be Koopa Troopas, there's going to be Lakitus. They showed off that stuff. Same with power ups, right? Like they confirmed the Fire Flowers back. That's the other only classic one that they showed off. I don't know if there will be others, but um,
I
what
would
I
guess not. Like, I would guess that it's the same
there's
power
so
ups
many
as
new powers
before.
that it's like maybe not, but
Yeah.
um But what I think is neat is that, like, some of those new enemies are, like, kind of like the Flower Kingdom's take on the classic enemy, which I think is cool, like, being in this new kingdom and, like, there's, like, these little I forget what they named them, but they're, like, the prince that you're helping out, it's, like, his toads, and, like, they look like toads, but, like, they're little flower guys instead, and it's neat how they're kind of building out this new locale and it can kind of have its own flair and its own rules and some of that stuff, and it's like again like it's a small change, but like when you think about it, what other Mario game doesn't take place in the Mushroom Kingdom? It's like three of them. It's like Mario Land and Mario 2 because it's in a dream, like
I really like that, and his name is Prince Florian, by the way, and he's invited Mario and his friends to the Flower Kingdom, and I'm guessing he probably regrets that decision now because Bowser followed them and merged with the castle somehow and, like, turned into a flower
Turns into a
castle, which is
weird
really
castle,
weird.
man. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little interesting. It becomes a big doom castle, but I was like, you know what? We're gonna have to penetrate Bowser's castle, I guess. You know, we gotta
Mhm.
get inside there.
It was really cool. I quite liked the different take on it. You know, I get sick and
Yeah.
tired of the same old Mario story, and it's nice to have something different that we're working towards for a change.
And again, like
Uh,
such different iconography, right? Like being like taking advantage of the wonder flower to do something that's funky and different and off the wall.
yeah, I like that, and I think for me the enemy that most matches up with what you were saying, right? That it's like a different take on the traditional enemy. Very much is that melon piranha plant. Like we're so used to the iconography of a piranha plant that's like red with spots on it that looks poisonous, like a poison plant. This one is like like a melon, and it's like shooting melon seeds at you instead of like breathing fire or snapping at you or whatever the piranha plant might be doing.
Yeah, and like again, I like how many of these enemies like have interesting like gameplay applications. Like the in the piranha plant, the melon piranha plant thing, you can like use the it spits up melon seeds and you can like use them to platform, you know? And it's like you pointed out the conks, like how that gets rid of the slime in the area. Like I like how many of them have these like very specific gameplay interactions where it's like, oh, you can use them for traversal or you can use them for, you know, like as part of the platforming and like as part of your speed running, you know, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. I want to touch on the power ups because we spoke about the power ups and how there are these new ones, right? And but there's those traditional ones. But I remember, and I distinctly remember, one of my favorite features from Bowser's Fury was the fact that I could essentially have like an inventory of power ups, and I could choose to
Yeah.
swap between them at any time. Now we don't quite have that level. We don't have an inventory that I can select between, but I can bubble one, and then I can kind of bring it back out later, and I can swap between them, which is really, really nice.
Yeah, it's nice. It's like a, you know, that's like I don't remember if Mario 3 is the first one to do it, or I think it's a Super Mario World feature originally, but that was, you know, that was like a thing you could do back in that, right? Where it's like you'd get the one that you'd bank and you could press select and it drops down and you know you can switch. Can't like switch between them like that, but yeah, it's like it's a nice feature for sure. It's something that like I was happy to see, especially because so many of these are so cool. Like, I imagine there are gonna be ones that are like, "Oh, this one's my favorite, and I wanna bank it and use it on levels where they don't give it to me," and things like that, you know?
Yeah, I thought we'd have had a better name for Elephant Mario than Elephant Mario. I thought they would have come up with something like Tusky Mario or
We'll
something,
keep it
you
simple.
know, but
It's elephant. It's
Elephant
what it is.
Mario does it, yeah.
It's like the Tanuki
I
suit,
thought it was
right?
cool.
Like, it's what it is. Just call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I thought that was the coolest power up. The fact that you could not only use it like we expected to go through blocks and like quickly get through areas, but you can go over smaller gaps. You can just walk over them. And
Yeah.
then when you get into water, it like sucks up the water in the trunk, and then you can like flail it around afterwards and like spray it all over the place, which is really cool. Or
The
you can
thing
just
I
flail the trunk and attack enemies as well, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
really
you
cool.
can kinda use it like the tail swipe with the Tanuki suit or like the cape, in World. What I like about it, um is like you said, you can like use the water that you have to spray on things, and they showed how that can be used in like a very like Mario 2 kind of way, where like you can like if you spray it on one of the talking flowers, they might give you an item. Or they might give you coins, or like you might unlock like a secret area, or like they showed a thing where like you would do like you did it and it gave you two of those I don't know what they're called actually, but you know, like the green vine plants that have like the piranha plant type mouth and they come up and then like they create a ladder for you.
Yeah, I don't know what they're called either.
They must have a name, but I've never really thought about it before right now. But those guys. So it's like you watered it and it revealed two of those and it took you to like a secret room or like a secret path, you know, and it's
They are just called beanstalks.
okay, there you go. So stuff like that is really cool too, because again, like you said, it encourages replayability. It encourages that like the way that I think you play like Mario 2 and Mario World, where like it is very about like what are the secrets? Like how can I find this secret area? How can I find this secret power up? Like I would imagine that there are things that we still don't know about, right? Like in feature sets and things like that that we
Oh,
still don't know about.
100%. Like, the badges, when they showed off the menu for the badges, there were so many on there, and a lot of them were just they just had all the ones that they didn't have just had question marks on them,
Yeah,
and they didn't show all of them off either, all the ones they did have unlocked, but so there's tons there to get, and I also like the fact that on that menu, it just says Prince's Choice, and I guess it just randomizes it based on what Prince Florian wants you to do on the level. Maybe
sure.
they're specifically tailored by the developers to be like, "This would work great on this level." I don't know. But the badges, I think, are where we're gonna see a lot of the kind of secrets, but also just in the levels. If there's 7 areas and we've only seen 3 of them,
Right.
I have no idea what the other themes are gonna be like.
So I do want to talk more about the power ups before we get away from them because there were two new ones that got shown off: the bubble and drill power ups. And we talked a little bit about the drill, right? The drill like allows you to go underwater or underground rather, and you can like use it to protect yourself from enemies. You can like jump up and hit them. You can go on the roof and like use it for different traversal that way. And then the bubble power is, I think, what you would expect. It's like it's very much like the fire flower or like the ice power up or something like that, where you're shooting these bubbles as a projectile and they, uh, if you like shoot them towards an enemy, they'll like lock to them basically, and then they get stuck in the bubble. And then you can pop the bubble and deal damage. And then you can also use it for platforming. Like you can create platforms and use it to like get height and verticality that you wouldn't have otherwise. I really
I was
like the
actually surprised to see the bubble because the bubble was used in 3D World, um, for a completely different purpose, right? You would bubble
yeah.
up when you're in multiplayer, and you could then float around the place,
That's
and
been
you like
around
follow.
since I wanna say Wii, Super Mario Bros. Wii, where, like, you had the bubble and, like, that you'd pop that to get people back in, and in this, they replaced that with a ghost system, which is cool, where basically you have a countdown going, and it's, like, pretty short, it's, like, 5 seconds, and if you, like, hit the ghost, they come back, otherwise, you lose a life. I like that, it feels like it has a little bit more you have more control as the ghost, but because there's the time, it feels like there's more pressure, It's like it's more of a threat that you're actually gonna lose something.
Yeah, but it does mean I can't coast through the really hard levels with my friends on Twitch like I
That's right.
did with Mario 3D World, which is a real big shame because I'm not
Yeah.
very good at platformers.
Well, you're gonna turn the skill up, baby. We're gonna
I'm
teach
just
you.
gonna have to get good.
Yeah, you're gonna get good. That's what we're gonna do. You can play, a Souls like, you can play a 2D platformer, I think.
Okay, we'll see. I don't know about that, but we'll see.
So then, let's talk about the wonder flowers, right? We talked a little bit about them. That's obviously like the main conceit of the game is like connected to these wonder flowers, and basically they trigger all kinds of weird things, right? Like
Yeah,
obviously Bowser
it's
uses
a
it.
psychedelic.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, Bowser uses it to turn into the castle, right? But then, like, the ones that they showed for us, right, is, like, sometimes it's what we saw in the original trailer where just, like, the world will get wacky and weird and, like, a bunch of enemies will spawn or, like, the pipes will start moving or, there's one showing on screen right now for the YouTube kids where, like, a ball falls out and starts chasing you. You end up in a free fall
Hmm.
where you're just skydiving. You're, like, bouncing on all these, like, rainbow colored balloons. There's the perspective shift one, like, it's just
That one was, I think, really cool. But then there's
really
like
cool.
floating in space. Then
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
Mario as a Goomba, or as like a spiky ball. Like
yeah.
it does all sorts of weird stuff, and I absolutely love it. I don't know how long they last. Like, is it? I guess it's based on. It seems to be 130 seconds.
I
Seems
think
to
there's
be.
yeah, there's a timer of 130 seconds every time, so it's no more than 90 seconds of just wacky stuff,
Hmm.
which is cool, like,
Which is cool.
I
Yeah.
like it, it breaks up the gameplay a little bit, I have confidence that they'll be fun, um, but yeah,
And
again, it's just
it seems to be a currency as well. Like you can either use this wonder seed to make wacky stuff happen, or I think you can use them in the stores. Is that
so
right?
I don't think that's the case because the wonder flowers, I think, are the thing that makes the wacky thing happen, and then I think when the wacky thing
The wonder
happens, you
seeds, you
get
get
a
wonder
seed.
seeds.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so those I think are really interesting and again, like I like that it adds something different to the formula that we already know. Like we know the Mario formula, and they're shaking things up and trying to find a way to inject like freshness into you know what I think. Not that like the 2D Mario formula has become stale, but the new Super Mario Brothers formula has become stale at
Yeah,
this point.
I think so.
It was
I
time for
also
something
like the
new.
fact that you complete a level by getting a wonder seed, but you don't always just get a wonder seed by completing the course. Like, that is one way you get a wonder seed, but there's also other win conditions by the looks of it. And they mentioned that it might be that you've got to find a specific you've got to find a wonder seed either in the course somewhere by using a wonder flower to go into like these bonus areas. And you saw Mario, there was one section where he's like a floating balloon and he goes and finds a wonder seed, but also defeating enemies like bosses. And there are boss levels that you have to go into and defeat these bosses, and then you'll get a wonder seed and you can use that to use as the currency around in the overworld.
Sorry, I got a little distracted looking at the footage for this game because I think the art style is so nice.
You like VR style? Like, because Mario looks a bit different, than he's
Yeah,
ever looked
he
before.
does look different.
Are you a fan?
I really like it. Yeah, because like I think Mario's design has gotten a little stale. Like and that sounds harsher than I mean it, but I think it reminds me of what I like a criticism I kind of have for Pokemon now, which is I like you look back at the old Gen 1 um art style, right? And there's like that the Ken Sugimori like watercolor art. And I think that that art style is so distinctive and like timeless and like it feels like it has such personality because it's a distinct style. And then, you know, over the last couple generations, like as Pokemon's become, a worldwide phenomenon, you get that kind of like standardization, right? Where it's like,
Mhm.
this is what it looks like, and we don't go off model.
Yeah, we
Uh,
spoke about it with The Simpsons last week, I think. We
yeah,
spoke
yeah,
about
that's
it.
a great example, right? Where it's like you look at The Simpsons in the first two seasons, or the first season of the second season, and then the middle seasons, and like there you see the style evolve, and you see there being like, oh, in this era, they used to draw Mario like this, right? Like, it's flatter and like, his face is small. Like you have this real evolution of the style of the character. And this happens with any major character, right? Like you look at this with Mickey Mouse, right? Mickey Mouse has gone through multiple different redesigns over the years. And then there's like one design that gets locked in for like decades because it's like this is the modern design and this is what it is. And then eventually like they have a new one now that they're rolling out and they've been using the last couple years and they're changing it up again.
Yeah, we saw some changes with Odyssey, and obviously that's never been reflected in the 2D games that we got on Switch because they were basically ports from the Wii U. But he seems so much more expressive in his face. And
Yeah,
I absolutely love that. Like, he
dude.
gets so excited about seeing absolutely anything in the world. Like,
So
they'll open a chest
yeah, yeah,
after you
yeah,
complete a
literally.
course, and he's like, "Ooh!"
Yeah.
He's like,
His little mouth. I love his mouth. Like, I love how, like, hand drawn he feels, Like and, like, he's got just, like, the little tiny smile, and, like but the thing you
yeah,
just called out, I was watching the direct upstairs with my wife, and, she was, like, on her phone. She was, like, kinda half tuned in, and, I was like, "Wait, babe, hold on," and I rewound it. I was like, "Look at Mario's mouth." And, like, made her watch it. I was like, "It's so cute. Look at it. He's so excited about the chest." Like, I
yeah,
love
he
it, man.
loves it.
I really love this
Yeah,
style.
I don't know. I'm kind of, I think it's probably just because I'm used to the old style that I'm sure this style will really kind of settle in for me.
Yeah.
There's something about it though, like it looks very plasticky. Like
I
they look like plastic figures.
it reminds me of what we like about the Link's Awakening style, though, where it's like it has, like, a diorama
Yeah,
kind of
but it's
feel like
not quite
it's
as glossy as that. Yeah, but
yeah.
I do agree with you. I
It
think when it's
I
in
think
motion, it looks really cool.
it feels like a drawing to me. Like it feels like almost like paper craft or something like that, but not that stylized, which is what I like about it. Like it's the same thing like I said with the Pokemon thing with the watercolors, right? You look at them, they don't look like paintings, right? It's just that it's a drawing with this unique color palette or this unique style of coloring, and you're like, "Oh, like that something about that is striking, right? Like it's
Yeah.
memorable." And that's what I like about this because to me, I think the thing that's blown about the new Super Mario Brothers style is that like it's just the same thing. Like, and it's like the stuff on the DS doesn't look that dissimilar than the stuff on the Switch. It's just okay, it's sharper models, it's higher frame rates, it's this, it's that, whatever, but like it's not a change in direction. Whereas like you
Yeah, he
look at
wasn't doing crazy things with his mouth. He wasn't,
no,
looking really scared when Bowser showed up in
and
those
again,
games.
right? Like you look at Mario to Mario 2 to Mario 3 to Mario 4. Mario looks different in every one of those games. And in the box art around each time, he's portrayed totally differently. Same thing with like Link, right? Link looks different in every single game. Every generation of Zelda, there's a redesign for Link. And that's cool because then when you go back and you look back on it, you're like, "Oh, right, like, you
I
know,
don't think you can do a full redesign with Mario though in the same way as Link. Like, it's never
no,
ever gonna happen.
No, but I don't think you need to. This isn't a full redesign. He still looks like Mario. He's still wearing the
Yeah,
hat
no,
and the
I
and the
re and
overalls and
I can never ever get over squishy Mario in the new 2D Mario styles, like, when he's not had a mushroom Mario. It always just looks so weird to me, like, the tiny Mario.
yeah,
Like, because that works in the 2D, right? Like, he defaults to the tiny one, and then he gets bigger, and it's basically just the
yeah,
sprite has scaled up, but I'm just so used to seeing that style Mario normal, like, in his normal form, like, after he's eaten a mushroom. I'm not used to the squishy Mario. It just looks so funny to me every
it
single
does
time
look
I see the
strange
squishy Mario.
for sure. So, one thing I do kind of want to talk about because we like touched on it, but I feel like we kind of drove by it a little bit. Is the playable characters, because that's another thing where
Yeah.
there are some pretty significant changes, to how things are gonna play out, right? So, we know,
We've got the full Smash Bros roster here. We can play as a million different characters from different games. It's great. I can't wait to play Cloud with the giant sword running through.
I mean, it's not that expansive, but it's a pretty big list. Because we do have, 8 playable characters, right? Of course, we've got Mario and Luigi and Peach. Then we've also got Daisy. We've got 2 different Toads. And, then we also have what is it, 3
My
Yoshis?
beloved Toadette and yeah,
Yeah,
three
Toadette.
Yoshis. No, four
Toadette, of course.
Yoshis. You have normal Yoshi, the green one, red, yellow, and light blue.
Cool. So 4 Yoshis, and then Nabbit, who was in I wanna say the Wii U one the first time?
Yeah, I think wasn't it the Luigi version that he got added along with Luigi?
That right? Yeah, that sounds right to me. I can't remember if that was his first appearance, but I that sounds right to me.
Yeah, and the Yoshis and Nabbit are
Yep,
the
New
kind
Super
of
Mario Bros. U. That was his first appearance.
they're kind of the special characters that they don't take damage, but they also can't use power-ups at all.
Right.
So they're just like kind of, I guess, the easy characters where you just
They
run through the level.
they do Yoshi also does have, like, Yoshi's, built-in abilities, so, like, Yoshi can't have power-ups, but does have a flutter jump and does have, the
It's
ability to,
tongue.
like, eat items and spit them back
Mm.
out. So, like, you do have some stuff. But the thing that's interesting though, right, is, like, the other characters, right? Like you said, the Yoshis and Nabbit play the same, and they don't take damage and everything, but Mario, Luigi, Peach, Daisy, Toad, and Toadette all play the same, exactly the same, which, you know
I'm very happy about personally because I don't know, I always found it weird that they all played differently, and I guess it makes sense, right? Peach would hold out her dress and she'd be able to fall down gracefully and
the
stuff.
flutter, yeah, or
And
the
Luigi would
floating
be able
rather.
to
Luigi
yeah, and
has the
Luigi would be able
the
to
flutter jump.
walk a little bit in the air and jump a
Yeah.
little bit higher. I think it would fundamentally break this game if you had all of those characters play differently, combined with all the power-ups, combined with the wonder stuff, and combined with the badges. That would be so difficult to master and figure out, and I just don't think it's possible. And I like that it's just everyone's on a level playing field, especially when you add in some of the multiplayer stuff that you can just be like, just pick a character, the one you like the look of on the screen. And if you want
Yeah.
an easy character, you're not at an advantage because you can't use any of the core power ups. So you can't get to some of the areas that you might need to be able to need to use a power up to get to. You can just get kind of the coins that are on the ground and easy to reach.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I guess I'm of two minds about it because I'm with you with that. Like, I definitely like that they have a class of character that is intended for like players who are less confident and like maybe who like want a chance to, you know, um,
Or if you just
to,
want to play with your kids, right? Like you want to play
yeah,
with your
yeah,
kids and
and
you
it
want to give them all right, you play as Yoshi or you play as Nabbit. You know, Nabbit's the one that steals all the coins.
and it gives them a chance to like develop chops in a way that's safer, right? That's cool. I'm into that. I think it makes sense to have a character or a couple characters that play that way. I I get what you're saying, where I think, like, the game being as broad as it is, like, maybe it doesn't make sense to have each character have, like, a totally different flow, but I don't know, like, we got a comment here from, Andrew Valentine from the Discord who said, "I kind of wanted the characters to all have different play styles, but I presume the need for broad accessibility kind of negated that, and the badges look like they'll allow you to vary play styles and move sets." So, I think that that's probably correct, in that the game just has so much to offer that the characters being standardized not only allows them to play with that stuff more, but it allowed them to add more characters, right? Because you don't need to have everyone have a unique move set. You just get a different model. But I don't know, like there's something about that that is fun, right? Like that was such a cool thing in Mario Bros. 2. Like everybody having a different play style. And you talk about replayability, like that adds so much to be like, I'll play through as Luigi, I'll play through as Mario. Like even on like the Mario Advance
Yeah.
games, that was something I liked about them, right? Was that Luigi played differently than Mario. And like that was something that when I was younger and not as good at the game, the flutter jump made it a lot easier, and when I got better, I graduated to playing as Mario, and it's like, oh, okay, like kind
Yeah,
of built
look,
in.
if it's still a problem, just play as Yoshi. No problem then, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
problem solved, mate.
So it's
But
it's I don't think it's a problem as much as it is like,
no, yeah, I'm just messing. I think there's enough replayability there with all of the badges
yeah,
and the
you're right.
challenges and all that stuff that you don't necessarily need it. And they've added a local multiplayer mode into this as well, where I don't know, because I guess you could have made them play differently. They played differently in 3D World, didn't they?
Yeah,
So I guess you could have done that. It's got to be to do with the badges and the power ups and just the
yeah. I
difficulty
think
of
you're
getting
probably
everything
right. Like
to work together.
I think you and Andrew Valentine hit the nail on the head there, where it's just like I think having that control is probably better overall for the nature of the game and it having all these weird variables. It's like, do you really need that on top of it, right? Because then it's like, okay, like Peach can float. Can she float when she's an elephant? Like, it's like, and then it's like, okay, like is that
Mm,
different? Do all of these need different, totally different rules now? I get that limiting that makes it simpler for them. And like I think given how much else the game has going on, I'm not pressed about that. I do want to pull another question from the question block. This one comes from Trendy Brendy, who wrote in and said, "Who's your main in Super Mario Bros. Wonder? I love Mario, but there's also some novelty in being able to play as Daisy or as a solo Yoshi for the first time."
who do you think my main is? Having
It's
known me
Toadette. You're
now,
playing as
yeah, I
Toadette.
was gonna say,
Fuck
having known me for like
yeah,
7 years or
you're
whatever,
playing
it's
Toadette.
got to be Toadette, yeah.
I wish that Yoshi wasn't like the weird side thing. Like I wish you could play as Yoshi regularly because I think I would probably consider playing as a blue Yoshi. But I think I'll probably mostly play as Luigi. I usually like Luigi, but
I I
Mario's the
mean,
guy.
yeah, I say I'm gonna play as Toadette. I always used to play as Mario just because I was used to how his play style. In 3D World, I played as Peach because I found the kind of floating
The
down a
flutter,
lot
yeah.
easier to position myself onto some of those platforms. I, I don't know. I'll probably mix between all of them in this game. Like give them all a try. And
It
if
is
I'm
very cool that Daisy is pulled up to the big leagues here because she's never been playable.
is she really she's your princess? I mean,
I just think she's
Rosalina's
cool.
probably Rosalina's probably fuming that she didn't make the princess roster.
Kind of weird that she didn't, but like
I mean, she floats. She doesn't walk. So, like, how's she gonna go through a platform? She's, like, just floating along.
Yeah, yeah, right. She's her feet are never touching the ground.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess you can still do that though, right? Like, that's not that crazy.
Oh,
Just a
yeah, yeah,
different
they could have made
animation.
it work if they wanted to, but I don't think it really
Yeah,
matters.
no, it's cool.
They've
I
got
like
the
Daisy. Like,
crew.
I Daisy's a cool character, and, like, she is very much like, she's kind of a palette swap, whatever, but, like, I like her, right? Like, she was in the Mario Land games, which I definitely am a defender of, and, like, I think it's really cool that, because of Mario Tennis, like, she kinda came back and, like, became, you know
She was in the Mario Party games as well,
yeah, but not until tennis. The story there is,
Oh,
uh
okay, I didn't realize that.
so I forget the name of the team. They still make the Mario sports titles to this
Camelot,
day.
right?
Camelot, yeah, thank you. So Camelot, right? UK based developer. Mario Tennis, or no, sorry, Mario Golf was the first project they ever worked on with Nintendo, and they've worked with them ever since on the Mario sports titles. And after Golf was a success, they had actually already made Hot Shots Golf, which is like Sony's golf game.
Or it was, RIP.
Yeah, I mean, they made one last gen. I don't know if it's ever coming back, but, um, so that was a success, right? They get the go ahead to make another game. They work on Mario Tennis, and they wanted to have, all everybody have doubles partners, right? So, Mario and Luigi are a doubles team, right? Um, or maybe it's Mario and Peach, but either way, um, they needed another doubles partner for either Peach or Luigi, whichever one it is, so they went with Daisy. And that was, like, because, like, they were just like, "Oh, we need another character." And they're like, "Oh, we have another princess from the Mario Land games. Why don't you bring her in?" And that's what brought her back to the forefront. And fun fact, they also created Waluigi. And that was for the same
Nice!
reason, was that Wario needed a doubles partner, so they invented Waluigi. So Camelot gave us Waluigi and brought, Daisy to the forefront, I think, for most folks. Because it was after that that she got added to the party and the other sports titles and eventually Kart, I think, right? And then obviously Smash.
Yeah, she's in cut, yeah. I like Waluigi. He was always great. I mean, my first interaction with him was in Mario Party 4, I think, on the GameCube.
Is 4 the first one he's playable in?
No, I think he was in 2 or
3, right?
3,
I
but
think
I
he's in
never I
3.
never played those ones.
Yeah, okay. Well, I are you pressed that Wario and Waluigi aren't in here? Would you play as
No,
Wario if he was playable?
no, no, I would not.
You need Wario Land.
What I'm really upset about is that we don't have a Wario Land game, and there's yet another WarioWare game coming out.
It would be so funny to me if they made a new Wario Land series and they just called it, like, Wario Land Wonder, and it was, like, the same logo, but he, like, painted
It would
his
be
name
so
over.
cool, and he does, like, nasty shit instead, and, like, that all of the levels are awful.
Yeah.
Like, one of the levels in Wario Land 4 is, like, he goes to a landfill. Like, let's just do that, and he finds the wonder in the trash or something. Like, be
And it's,
great.
like, playable characters are him and Waluigi and, like, Bowsette or something, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, bring all the Koopa kids in,
Yeah,
let
yeah,
them be
oh,
let
yeah,
them be
you can
the
play as, like,
easy
Lemmy.
characters, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good idea. Alright, so I we got a couple more questions here that I wanna jump into, but before that, let me remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of August. They are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valenz, Earth nope, that's right. Why did it get moved? Alright, fine. I'm just gonna go again. We're not gonna cut this. I'm just gonna go. Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, aka Asobi, Earth Visitor, Snackago, Ty the Dude, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. Y'all the realest of the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. Remember, if you want a little extra Nintendo noise this week, go check out a very special episode this week of the Flip Screen Games podcast that we did with none other than Chris Brandrick, who you fine folks will know from Switch Weekly, his newsletter, and the state of the Switch breakdowns that we do on this podcast every year. He was uh, gracious enough to join us over on that show this week to talk about his experiences at Gamescom. So go check that out. And we got all the questions that you wrote in for this show, we answered on that one. So go check that out. I will say, though, Steve, there was one question that was written in for that episode that did not make the cut, but we're going to answer it today. And this comes from our very good friend, Mr. Chewy. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I said this, but if not, flipscreen.games. That's the website. Go click on
You
subscribe.
did. Yeah, yeah.
Bam. All right. Thanks,
Yeah.
buddy. Thank you. Keep me honest. I'm just so excited about Mario, you know? I'm like, wait, gotta get back to it. So Chewy wrote in and said, "What do you think of a 2D Mario game in a post Celeste world? Do you feel like 2D Mario needs a major overhaul? Are there any things you'd like to see changed, or are you fine with it being mostly the same?" And then we got a follow up to that where Arciela wrote in and said, "This is a good question. Hell, even in a post Mario Maker world." To which Chewy said, "That's good. Add that context. Let's make sure we mention it's also a post Mario Maker world." So I, I have a lot of thoughts on this, Steve. How does this question hit you?
I kind of feel like we've got a major overhaul, but I think for me, Celeste was about the challenge and the story. It was about the story of someone suffering with, mental health issues and like going through that. And then also the fact that it was hard as fuck. And if you wanted to get those strawberries, you were really going to be challenging yourself. I don't think that Mario needs to be that challenging. Maybe there could be a mode added as like a DLC in the future that makes it challenging. Maybe there are like the Mario equivalent of strawberries already in the game and we don't know about it. Maybe those are the wonder seeds that you have to find in the levels.
Or maybe
And
you
maybe they're
get
really hard to reach.
Or maybe you get something like we had in like Super Mario Sunshine, where there are like these like extra difficult levels that get unlocked, or maybe you get like the thing in Odyssey where there's like a dark side of the moon type thing. Like we know that there's 7 worlds, right? Like it's like maybe there's like a post game world where it's like, okay, these are like the really tough levels. You've seen that a
Yeah,
lot
which
in
would be really
Nintendo
cool.
games recently, right? Like Kirby and the Forgotten Land did that, where it's like, oh, now
Mhm.
you're in the post game and it's way harder. It's like, oh, cool.
Yeah, I think Odyssey had it too. Right? All
Yeah.
those big silver
Pikmin 4 did that too.
things. So maybe that's there. We just don't know because no one's played the game yet, and they're really keeping kind of cards close to their chest when it comes to the levels and what's there, which I
I
think
mean,
is
we
the
knew
right
next to
thing
nothing
to do.
about it before today, right?
Yeah,
We saw
we just all
15
thought
minutes
it
of
was
it.
looked really really cool, and we wanted to buy the game. Um, so I don't think that matters when it comes to story. Mario's story is always just going to be fodder. Like no one cares about the story when it comes to 2D Mario.
Mm-mm.
That's what it is, right?
In general,
Um,
right? Like story is not the point of Mario, right? Like it's like the journey is the destination. It's not about saving Peach or anything, really, right? Like or it's not really about beating Bowser as much as it is like just let's go on a fun ride, right? Let's take a romp.
yeah, which
Do you
is
think we're
fine,
ever
which is
gonna
absolutely
save?
fine.
Are we gonna stop saving Peach from Bowser? Is Odyssey the
I
last
mean,
time
we
that
have in
happened?
this one, right? Peach is a
Yeah,
playable character,
that's what
so
I'm
we're just
saying.
don't need to do that. She
I'm
wasn't
just
in
wondering.
Sunshine. She was
She's
like
gonna be
chilling out.
she's getting her own game in this new one, right? Like I'm
I
like
mean, it'd be
maybe
so nice. She was a badass in the movie, and we
yeah.
weren't saving her from
That's
that.
what I'm
I really
wondering.
would
Like,
like.
are we
I'd
gonna
love her
pivot?
to get a rebrand. Yeah,
I
like
f I feel like we're
this.
gonna. And if we
Let's make the
are,
more sassy, like hard edged, like
yeah, instead of being all like
confident.
demure, yeah, and like
Yeah,
very like, kinda prim
I
and
liked the
proper.
vibe she had in the movie. It was like,
I
I'm a
agree.
badass and I know, and I can do this assault course, and I'm like the princess of this kingdom, and everyone worships me for some
She's
reason. But
Oh, it's because she's a tough, confident leader, right? Where it's
yeah,
like I dig that, where it's like, oh, I believe that they would follow her because she's strong, right? Like she has a strong will. And like cares about her people. It's like, cool, yeah, I buy that. That's better. And if they do that, that would be super cool because I feel like Odyssey is like such a good way to do that for the last time. If that is what you're doing, of like this is going to be the last time that we focus on Bowser kidnapping Peach. Be like, you did it, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, I really love the story in Bowser's Fury, where you're helping to save Bowser, and in this one, obviously, Bowser is doing something else equally dastardly, and he's turning
yeah,
into a castle and
it's
trying to
a
take over a different kingdom.
yeah, and it's a very very minor like okay, like well, it's the same. You're beating Bowser, but now it's in a different kingdom, and the princesses are along for the ride. And it's all right, cool. Like it's different enough anyway.
Yeah.
So to take it back to Chewy's question, yeah, I think so. I'm of two minds. I think that there's a strong case to be made that Celeste is maybe the best 2D platformer ever made. And also, I don't think that that means that other games need to be like it at all or learn anything from it even. Because I think your point is a really salient one, Steve, where like Celeste is not good because it improved on the Mario formula or something like that. It's not like a Stardew Valley type game where it's like, what's the future of Harvest Moon in a post Stardew Valley world? I don't think it's like that, right? Where it's like I think of Celeste as being more in the same camp as like something like Shovel Knight, where it's a game that is a deep love letter to that era and style of games, but also modernizes it and does a lot of new shit. And like that game takes just as much influence from Super Meat Boy as it does from Mario or whatever, right? So yeah, like Celeste is fantastic. That doesn't mean that other 2D platformers can't be as good or can't like, you know, push things forward again, right? I think this is very much the same question as like what we talked about with Metroid Dread, where it's like, what does Metroid Dread do in a post, Axiom Verge world, in a post Hollow Knight world, in a post whatever? And it's like it came out and kicked ass. That's what you do. And I think Mario's definitely capable of doing that, of coming out and upping the ante and proving that there's a reason that Mario is the de facto name when it comes to 2D platformers. In the same way that there's a reason that Metroidvanias are named after Metroid and Castlevania. And yeah, like there are gonna be um indies and other folks that come out and do things different and do things better and, elevate the genre in their own ways. That doesn't mean that Nintendo and the old guard that hold this can't, because you got to think the class of developers that made this game, they've played Celeste. They've played Shovel Knight. They've played all these new games and have learned from them and been like, wow, look at all these things that 2D platformers can be and do that they learned from us, or they, innovated and took in their own direction and built on the foundation that Mario set. Yeah, man, cool. Like, let's raise the ceiling now. Like, what does a new Mario look like? What does a Mario with, not playing the hits, not relying on the same presentation, right? To answer the thing here, right? Like, does it need a major overhaul? I agree with you, Steve. This is a major overhaul. It's different in a ton of
Hmm.
ways. It has a brand new art style. It has a new way that characters control. We have, predominantly new power ups, predominantly new enemies. We have these badges that are a brand new thing. Like, there's so much innovation in this game that, I think will be enough to show that it's a different thing. And to answer the Mario Maker thing, I think this is an unpopular opinion, but I think Mario Maker is like just okay. Like, I think the best part of Mario Maker are the Nintendo design levels. I'm not as interested in playing.
Oh, you
um
should have tried some of the levels made by Maddie, who, designed Celeste. They were
yeah,
really good levels.
and like that stuff is really cool. And I'll admit I've not explored that as much as I should have, and like I'm sure that there's great content there, but it's like
Yeah, she was pushing out a new level like every week, and it was like, these are really
yeah, and
challenging.
it's
Like
like
these are really well thought out designed levels.
Maddie is like one of the best developers working right now. So like deeply unsurprising. But like I don't know. This to me is a lot more exciting than a Mario Maker. It just is. I would
No, it
rather
is for me
have
too.
a new thing
I
with a
want to
fresh
play
direction.
games. Yeah, I want to play games rather than make games, and I
Yeah,
think for me, Mario Maker was a problem. I enjoyed playing the Nintendo levels, but I did enjoy playing some of the stuff that other people made. I think Mario Maker succeeded so well on the Wii U because there wasn't much else to play on the Wii U, and like it was the best Mario game on the Wii U. I don't think much of New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe or U. I don't think much of that game at all. And I think Mario Maker and
that
3D
game's really
World were
good.
the best games
Just
on
to
there.
say, just to say, that game's better than Mario Maker. That's my hot take.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, but I think Mario Maker was fun. It was innovative. We got a
I
load of stuff added to it, and I don't think Mario Brothers U was.
I think that's the problem. I think that's why this game needs to exist. Is that attitude? I think is so prevalent of like why New Super Mario Brothers needs to end. Is that like that game could be the best game in that series, but you don't know or care because you're not interested in it. And like
Yeah,
I think it's
because people are done with it as a concept,
as
as
a
a
style.
franchise. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And like I think
well,
it's
in the
the
same way that people were done with Zelda being Ocarina of Time over and over and over again,
exactly.
and we wanted
Yeah.
something fresh and something new, and they did that, and it seems like that's what Mario Wonder is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. Cause like I think I'm of the opinion that New Super Mario Bros. U is the best of the New Super Mario Bros. Games, but like there's so many of them at this point that it's like, okay, so, it's like whatever. None of them are as good as 1 through 4, right? So like whatever. Like, okay, great. This feels like a fresh, this is a fresh chapter. And I think
Yeah.
this can be a new jumping on point for younger players who I've just been turned on to Mario from the movie and like want to get in and like this can be their first Mario
Yeah,
game.
can you
Great.
imagine if they came here from the movie and Peach was being kidnapped and they're like, "Who is this Peach? Like, why would she be kidnapped and taken away?" And like,
Yeah.
and she's just like feeble and she needs Mario to come chase after her. It
Yeah.
just
Now
wouldn't make
she's
sense.
playable. And again, right? Like I'm sure that's a huge part of what they're thinking is that like, you have this chance now with like this movie and the theme parks and everything. Like Mario is getting a push and like a moment of cultural relevance that hasn't really happened since its inception. And like I guess, to a lesser degree, like Mario 64 and stuff like that, where there are these like booms. Um, and you got to imagine that like a huge percentage of the people that went and saw that movie were young women, and like girls, little girls, and like that they thought Peach was cool and they want to come to the new Mario game and play as Peach, right? Or they want to play Peach's game next year on the Switch, right? Um, so yeah, I feel like it's like now that that seal's been broken, do you really want to put her back in that box of being like a plot device rather than a character that like can carry her own franchise and can, appeal to young women in a way that like, Mario
And they
just doesn't.
definitely don't, because 'cause they're giving her a game next year, for the
Yeah.
first time in decades,
And
which is
she's
great.
playable in this one for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
And like, she's been playable. She was like you said in 3D World. She's been playable in some of the other games here and there. It's not like it's never happened, right? The precedent was set in the literally the second Mario game was that she was playable. But it's oscillated, right? So like the idea of like, no, like let's in the same way that like Luigi's been allowed to step out of the shadow a little bit and do his own thing, like let's figure that out for Peach, right? And like I'm here for that. I'm really here for that. That's great. And Daisy,
Yeah.
awesome. Love to see it.
I mean, Daisy's not, I've never been bothered about Daisy, but I'm glad she's there for you. I'm
Don't
just really
disrespect
happy
her.
Toadette's there
Yeah.
because Toadette was removed
I mean,
from
like think about that.
as a playable character from the Mario Party games, and I was devastated.
Think about that though. This is the first time in the history of Mario games where there is an equal number of playable male characters and female characters.
Mm.
Right? Like at most, it's been one
And I
previously.
guess non-gendered characters with all the Yoshis and,
Yeah,
Nabbit.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about Nabbit. I don't know what the situation is there. Um, but yeah, like that's awesome. I think that speaks to the efforts that have been made by these companies to like just try to make games more inclusive for everybody. Because like
Yeah.
like it I that's been a really cool thing, I think, in the broader pop culture of, like, the last decade or so is, like, how much statistics have shown that, like, whether it's games or, you know, superhero toys or whatever, right? Like, all that kinda shit that it's like, women are just as interested in this stuff. So, like, why do we constantly box them out, you know? Um So it's cool to see that like you can have that direct pipeline now for like these young women who hopefully went and saw the Mario movie and enjoyed it and can play Mario Wonder this Christmas and then pick up the Peach game next, year and then hopefully like they're in, right? And then they're like, "Oh, Luigi's Mansion's coming out. Great. Like next Mario game's coming out. Great. Like I'm in." You know?
Yeah. Let's wrap things up with, I guess, closing thoughts and also the Christmas list thing. Is this going on your Christmas list, or are you buying it day one,
Day 1.
or are you're getting this one day one? And
Definitely.
what about that OLED Switch? We mentioned it briefly. Where does that land? Is that a Christmas
Dude,
gift for you? Is that like I'm gonna sell my OLED Switch currently and pick that one up because it looks really cool.
I
It's
want
like
it
red
so
with the like
bad.
hidden coins in the back. Like, it's
It's
so cool.
so nice. Like, it's so nice, and I'll tell you what, it's the most I've ever thought about selling my base console to buy, like, a goofy special one, Like, I'm like, "Oof," because like, I
That
got
and
the
the
OLED
Animal
Switch.
Crossing one were the other one was the other one I
Yeah,
really,
I
really like.
really liked that one, and I really considered that one, right? But, like, this, I'm like, "Oof, I like Mario more than I like Animal Crossing, right? Like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe. Big maybe. Big maybe, but I think it's too late in the life cycle for me to wanna invest in yet another new Switch.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at as well. And For me, I don't think I'm picking up Mario Wonder on day one. I think this probably would be one I'm gonna pop on the Christmas list. I just think around that time, I'm still gonna be chipping away at all the games I want to finish that I've not finished. And I don't think this is gonna be the one that tips into my game of the year spot. And I've still got to finish Zelda and Diablo and Baldur's Gate and Starfield, and I need to get through those before I move on to Mario. But I could see myself picking this one up in the new year or popping it on my Christmas list and jumping around.
I think there's a really strong chance that this game ends up in my top 5 games for the year.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that because I think it looks like a really good time, and I know how much you like 2D Mario. You're
Yeah,
one of the only people I know that likes 2D Mario more than 3D Mario.
yeah. I think that's the intellectual's opinion, you know? But yeah, I mean, yeah, you know me. I'm a big 2D platformer fan in general, let alone for 2D Mario. I'm definitely a stan there. So I'm very excited for this game. And I mean the fact that this game comes out the same day as Spider-Man 2, another game I am very confident will be in my top 5.
Yeah,
You
yeah, you said 7 out of 10's across the board for that one, right?
Oh, you bite your tongue. Yeah, I mean, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, okay, top 5 is maybe it's like Tears of the
It's a
King.
struggle. That's a real struggle to get into there with the games that have come out this year.
It's like Tears of the Kingdom, right? It's right up there. That's a lock. Top 5, right? Definitely.
Yeah, but Baldur's Gate 3 seems like it's a lock.
Baldur's Gate 3, I think, is a lock now for top 5. Final Fantasy 16, still, I would say a strong top. It's definitely a lock for my top 10. It's still I would say a very strong contender for top 5.
Yeah.
Um,
Spider-Man's gonna be in there.
Spider-Man's gonna be in there, and Mario Wonder's gonna be in there, and then it's like Starfield. Like that's a big question mark. Does that break the top 5? Do I like that better than any of these other games? And if so, which one? Like, I don't know. I feel like that's the only maybe Mario RPG, but I think those are the only other 2 games that I'm like,
What about
these
Pikmin?
are
How's that going?
you're right, actually. Shoot. I do really like Pikmin 4. You're right. I might It's like apples and oranges, you know, it's so hard. I was about to be like, I might like that game more than Final Fantasy 16, but it's like, I don't know. I have to think about it. But you're right. That is a really strong top 5 contender. So, I don't know. It's tough. But I think I would be surprised if Wonder isn't able to at least secure the number 5 spot. That's my prediction right now, based on
I
today.
mean, you can't predict your own things because if we make a contest out of it, you'll just put it in the number 5 spot
Oh,
to
no,
win.
no, no. It's not like a contest. Like, I'm not no bet. I'm just throwing it out there, right? If I had to
Yeah.
guess right now, I feel like it will at least make the top 5. I'd be surprised if it didn't.
It's tough. It's very tough. Like, and there's so many games and so many games like in contest for that top 5.
What a truly incredible year for the Nintendo Switch, huh?
Yeah. I'm for gaming in general, really. Like, it's
I
just insane.
I really think this might be my new candidate for best year in gaming.
Yeah. I
I've
mean, the
always
Switch got Red Dead Redemption this year. Like,
for
how insane is that?
and
I
it's like
never
and it's
thought that would be.
it got it, and it's like it doesn't even matter because there's so much other
Yeah.
shit happening. You're like, yeah, whatever, fucking, that's cool, I guess. You know,
It's
and
like,
it's
yeah,
like,
one of the best games ever made has finally come to the console,
and it
you know?
runs great, right? Like, and it's awesome. It runs at like 60 FPS. It's fantastic, and it's like, oh, whatever. Like, I don't have time for that. Resident Evil 4 remake came out this year, and everyone's like, oh right, that was a thing. It's like
Yeah.
any other year, that would be a game of the year
So did
contender.
Dead Space.
Yeah, which was again fantastic. Fucking Metroid Prime remastered. I didn't even think of that when we were talking about how good Nintendo's year
That's
was.
in the top, like, rated games of all year.
Hmm.
Still up there.
Yeah, nuts, nuts. Baldur's Gate, one of the best rated games of all time.
I know.
Wild. Yeah, it's a hell of a year, man.
It's
I've long maintained that 2017 best year in games, right? Launch of the Switch, we get Breath of the Wild, we get Mario
this is pop
Odyssey,
like,
and I'm
top
like,
tier, yeah.
I think this is it. I think this
Yeah.
tops it.
Oh, yeah, we got Persona 4 come to Switch this year as well.
Yeah. And the Persona 3 remake that's coming out in a couple of weeks. And it's like, again, not even thinking about that because it's like, I'll get to it when I get to it. I don't know, you know?
Yeah. Monaco's Night Market's finally coming out next month. Like, there's so many things. The Xenoblade expansion.
What a time to be
Oh,
alive,
man.
Steve.
Yeah. Good year, really good year.
Good
I
year.
struggled to play everything. I really hope next year is a wash and there's nothing to play
I
and I
really
can
do
just
hope
catch
next
up
year's slower.
on
I can catch
everything.
I haven't even caught up on the games I missed from last year. You know how many games I
Yeah,
have?
I know.
Dude, I have like 4 games that were games that I really wanted to play that people bought me copies of to be like, play it,"
Yeah,
and
how's
I
Hitman?
please, you kidding me? That's so far in the rear view. I would
No, I
love to
know.
get around to
No,
it,
I know,
brother.
but like even from this year, you got stuff you want to play, right? Star Wars Jedi Survivor. You even
I
touched
still
that.
haven't
You
even
gonna get to
touched
that?
that. I
You're
don't
never
even
gonna
think
get to it.
no, I'm not going to, I don't think, and that sucks, but, like, it is what it is. I don't have 40 hours for it right now, or
Yeah,
60 hours, whatever the
Oxenfree
fuck it is.
2 came out. You gonna pick that up? Give that a go
What was
before
it?
the end of the year? Oxenfree 2. I know how much you loved Oxenfree.
That one I think I can get to because that's like a weekender. Like I
Mm.
even if I don't know that I'll get to it now, but like when we do our like break at the end of the year where we like take a week or 2 off or whatever it is,
Yeah, I'm
and
very
we like
glad that we do that so that we can just play games, and
so we can come back and do game of the year.
that's why we do our game of the year in January. You know,
Yeah.
that's the reason, so we can actually finish some games.
And we don't have the benefit of being full time like some of the outlets. So, we gotta make it work for us where we can.
Oh man, it's crazy.
But that works, right? Like I think I could see myself being like, all right, like let me get through this in the run up to game of the year.
Yeah. I mean, and Starfield seemingly is gonna be there, you know, it's beating out Final Fantasy 16 in terms of ratings on Metacritic at the moment. It's gonna be like a good game, and it's a
Yeah,
Bethesda game, and I know how much I love it.
it's a
So I'm really
contender.
looking forward to that, yeah. But then I I still think Tears of the Kingdom has got the prize for game of the year. I still think that's the number 1 for most people.
That's where I'm leaning right now. I think Baldur's Gate is like the game that could maybe shake that for me, but we shall see.
Yeah. Or maybe Mario Wonder, who knows? You'll have to let me know.
God, I would love that. I would love that if I come in here and I'm like game of the year, Mario Wonder. Period. That would be awesome. All right, well, we'll wrap it up there for the day. Thank you all for joining us here on another episode of Nintendo Noise. Remember, if you want to write in just like everybody did for our question block here today, there's a bunch of ways you can do it, and you can find them all over at flipscreen.games. That's our website where you can find links to our Discord, where you can keep the conversation rolling between episodes. You can write into our email address, questions@flipscreen.games, or you could go and check out some of our sister shows like the Flip Screen Games podcast, where we've got a little extra Nintendo Noise conversation with friend of the show, Chris Brandrick. Make sure you go check that out. And then, of course, if you want to go above and beyond while showing your support, you can head over to that there Patreon and help us keep these mics and lights hot. For the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Steve. We'll see you next week for another episode of Nintendo Noise, baby.